Right now, though, I am very excited to talk to our next guest because I would like to have a better understanding of what it's like to learn on the job as a young quarterback in the NFL. And one of the guys who's done it and did it here in Washington over the last quarter century of quarterbacks that have gone through, one of the guys who did it better than I think a lot of others did was Jason Campbell. And Jason is kind enough to join us now. Jason, thanks so much and welcome to the show.
Hey, Greg, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So that really is why I wanted to talk to you. I mean, I could probably talk to you about quarterbacking for a long time, but like to keep things focused, we're obviously so focused on Sam Howell and what he can do as a starter, what he can become. But there's kind of this push and pull between developing him and what is he capable of for a team that has a good defense, has some great skill position players, and is trying to win right now. So when you think about what it's like to have that pressure as a young quarterback, what memories start to flood back from your early days in Washington as someone who was playing very early in their career?
Yeah, playing quarterback in the National Football League, it is it's a tough job. You definitely got to prepare each and every week, and I think the best thing for any young quarterback is a great defense and a really good run game. The reason I say that is because, it helps a young quarterback kind of get settled in, where he's not having to put so much pressure on his shoulders week in and week out, where you're trying to win games by throwing for so many attempts a game. I think the more that you can kind of bring a young quarterback along and not ask him to throw 35, 40 times, but if you can run the ball really well and play to the strength of your defense until he starts to build a little stronger, there's no different than being Roethlisberger, his first couple of years in Pittsburgh. And, Dak Prescott early on with the other team, the Cowboys and everything, how they kind of ran the ball and played great defense. So it's the same thing when it comes to Sam. Like, the thing about a young quarterback is you don't want to get into a situation, Craig, where you feel like you're forcing the ball because you got to try to do certain things outside the norm to try to get a victory. And then that's when the next thing you know, you start creating turnovers, you start creating bad habits, and then you don't want to become turnover prone because you're doing things out of the norm.
Right, and I think that's something that's been interesting to watch with Sam is he seems so mature, so capable mentally, like getting past mistakes, but then you also see that sometimes maybe it is good to curb things in a game like Sunday where he winds up throwing 4 interceptions. So what's it like to have that pressure of, hey, I need to give myself some level of grace because I'm young and this league is really hard, while also knowing like I'm in a league with grown men who are trying to win right now and people's jobs are on the line?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because we live in a popcorn society. Everyone wants instant results like right now. No one's really patient and kind of see the process. There's no such thing as a process anymore. Everyone's demand is so high they want to see instant results. And I think sometimes when it comes to young quarterbacks, you can find yourself trying to be forceful because, one, you want your teammates to believe in you. 2, you want the fan base to get around you. You want them to rally behind you. And then 3, you want to show that you're the right man for the job. And, in the back of your mind, like, okay, I know there's progressions to this and I have to get better, from week in and week out. And I have to have something to learn from. Like, this is his first full year starting. So there's going to be so much film and so much tape that he'll learn from, and there's going to be some growing pains along the way. But sometimes you do feel in the back of your head like, okay, I don't have time to get to that process because I need them to start believing in me ASAP. So I need to start trying to force things and do things to show that I am the right man for the job. And then that's when you start creating, like I said, bad things start happening, turnovers, and you start playing behind the sticks rather than staying on schedule because you feel like, oh, the check down's not good enough. Let me try to throw the ball down the field when it's double coverage instead of just taking a check down that's right there in front of you, taking a tight end that's right there in front of you, staying on schedule within the offense so that you can move the ball down the field and understand that, hey, at the end of every snap, your job is to try to come away with the football. You protect the football for the team and don't give the ball away to the other team because you have a great defense that can stop teams and make teams go the long way to have to beat you. And that's what you have at your arsenal. But for young quarterbacks, the hardest thing for them to do is understand that check down that you give to that running back and that tight end, man, it's a huge advantage because it makes defenses come up and have to defend that, and then that's when you can start taking your shots.
Jason Campbell is with us here on the Hoffman Show. Of course, former Washington quarterback, played 10 years in the league. What was the thing that clicked for you to kind of realize, like, oh, that is the right path? Like, was it doing it and getting successful? Was it coaches talking to you and something that was said to you a certain way? Because you went from your second year throwing 11 picks all the way down to 6, and you actually led the league your third year here in Washington in 2008 in interception percentage. Only one of every 100 passes you threw got picked off that year. So what was it that made you okay with the check down, okay with the route over the ball, not necessarily waiting for that longer dig behind it to develop or whatever it might have been on any given concept? What made that okay with you?
Well, the main thing for me was I started to understand defenses, and I started to understand what defense was trying to do to me, as well as like listening to my coaches, just saying, hey, if they feel comfortable with me taking the check down, then that makes me relax as a quarterback. That means that makes me feel like, okay, I'm doing what they're asking me to do, and I'm keeping the offense on schedule. So for me, I learned like, okay, defenses kind of knew I had a big arm. I was a strong arm quarterback. So they was going to try to play deep a little bit and say, okay, we're going to make him see if he's patient enough to take what we give him. And what they're going to give you is the underneath stuff. And then if I wasn't patient enough, then I just end up throwing interceptions after interceptions because I'm going to force the ball down the field and be hard-headed. But I learned just watching film, like, okay, this is what they're trying to do to me. Let me try to protect the football a little bit better and take what the defense is giving to me. And it'll help the overall my overall quarterback progression continue to move up, because then defenses start to know that, okay, he's going to take the underneath stuff if we give it to him. So now we're going to bring those linebackers up, and that's when I was able to start hitting Chris Cooley on the second level, able to hit Santana Moss on the third levels and different things down the field, was because those guys start to bite up a little bit. So protecting the football too was understanding that I'm protecting my defense, not putting my defense at harm where they're trying to protect our side of the field because I had a bad turnover. So at the end of the day, you want to, like I said before, you want to force your defense to make the opponent offense have to drive the distance and not give them easy points, especially when you're playing explosive offense against an explosive offense. So a lot of it was just understanding coverages, just realizing that there are certain coverages in the NFL where they show you one thing at the snap, and then at the snap, everything changes. So you got to go back. You got to study film. You really got to prepare yourself at nighttime. You got to get in that playbook, and then you have to do self-study. You kind of do that on your bye week where you got a couple of days to sit back and relax, and you go through and you kind of look at yourself on film. But there's so much studying that has to go into understanding coverages and understanding how people play to you. And the thing about Sam is no one really knows what to expect right now because there's not a lot of footage. The NFL has a book on you, and they only get a book on you after they see you play for a certain amount of time, and then they start to say, okay, this is what he does well, this is what he doesn't do well. So they try to force him to do the things he feels uncomfortable with. So it's up to Washington to try to get him into a point where he does things he feels comfortable with within that offense.
Yeah, which is obviously a challenge for Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, which leads me to circling back to something you said earlier. You talked about how a running game can be a quarterback's best friend, and that is certainly an old NFL adage. I think as the game has evolved, people have realized you can actually throw the ball on first and second down because you get simpler looks and you can get some easy completions. But I think something that I'm excited to ask you about, Jason, that I've talked about a lot with Logan Paulson on the podcast that we do together, that he's talked about a lot with Kyle Shanahan, who he obviously played for a number of years in the NFL in a couple of spots, is the idea of neural load for a quarterback, meaning the decision-making that you just start to stack decision after decision after decision and how that wears on you during a game. How does a running game, whether it's effective or not, help kind of keep your mentals about you as a quarterback and keep that neural load, that decision-making volume to a level that you're comfortable with, depending on where you are in your career, that's going to be higher or lower. But how did that develop for you during your career, and how can a running game help that?
Yeah, a running game can definitely help a whole lot. It doesn't matter if you're a 10-year vet or a 12-year vet or, a 3-year quarterback. If you have a run game, it definitely takes the pressure off the quarterback a little bit because it keeps defenses honest, where defenses are not just allowed to just say, okay, we're shutting down their running game. If you decide not to run it at all and just abandon the run, it's hard to win in this league because defenses will just peel their ears back with their defensive ends, and they start bringing linebackers and mugging the gaps and everything, where they try to put pressure on you and blitz you from all different angles to make you have to get rid of the ball and try to create sacks, which sometimes creates turnovers. So you never want to get one-dimensional. You always want to try to run it, even if it's not popping 5 or 6 yards per carry. You still want to be able to run it enough to keep that defense honest, because that's when you can hit the play action pass behind them. That's when you can get your tight end and those deep in cut routes by your outside receivers and slot receivers to that second level, because you get those linebackers to bite up. But if they know you're a team that's going to drop back and throw it 40, 50 times, then, they're not going to respect your run as much. And so that it's so important that the run game not just only helps your quarterback, it helps your offensive line get into a rhythm. I played with many offensive line before, and they always say, hey, kind of come out running a little bit to get us into a rhythm where we're kind of in the attack mode, where we can attack our defensive tackles and go after them a little bit instead of them attacking us, because we're in protection mode and they're trying to get to our quarterback in pass rush. So you want to kind of flip the mindset, because once those guys start feeling like, hey, we can block these guys, we can move them down the field a little bit, and they start getting confident to run. And then when the pass happens, they're just as confident because they haven't been beat already up front to the point where they give up a sack or they give up get pushed to the back to the quarterback, and then all of a sudden they're just not feeling the rhythm or the chemistry of the game. You got to get those guys into a rhythm as well and get them into a flow, and that kind of flows back to the quarterback too.
So, and then I'd also imagine when you can just drop back or when you just go back there and hand the ball off, and that you don't have to drop back and like read a defense and sit back there and know those defensive linemen are coming at you. There's probably like you let off the gas for a second. Not that you lose focus, but like it allows you a moment of clarity, I would imagine. Like that play call comes in and you're like, oh, I get to just hand the ball off and kind of catch my breath for a second.
Yeah, even during those plays, though, Craig, you still kind of looking at the defense, because I know when I played, I would always, like, when I hand the ball off, I would kind of take 4 or 5 steps after I hand off, like I'm faking a bootleg or something out the backside, or, just looking at a play action pass, because the one thing you want to do is you want to look and see what the safeties do. You want to see that the safeties, did they come downhill fast, or did they stay back? Did the linebackers overflowing? Is the backside end even paying attention to me? Where I can come to the sideline and say, Coach, the backside end he's not even paying attention to me, where we may fake the same handoff and they may call a quarterback keeper. You may keep it, or they may call it a bootleg because the backside guy is not paying attention. So those are things as a quarterback, you never take a play off. You always stay engaged in the game, where even a simple handoff, you look at the second level, you look at those backside ends and linebackers and see what are they doing. And because that you can help a coach call certain plays in certain situations, especially if it's a short yardage play and they've been flowing hard, and all of a sudden you just do that quarterback fake and you keep it. I've done many of those where I kept them backside and you score, or you pick up the first down because you saw the first 2 quarters or the first 3 quarters how they were just downhill flowing relentless and weren't even paying attention to me probably keeping the ball.
That's good stuff. That's a great perspective. And on that note, did you see what happened to Jared Goff this weekend on a play action, or not on a handoff, where he did this kind of the same thing?
I'm trying to remember. I was traveling a little bit.
He got absolutely smashed by a blitzer who he handed the ball off. The blitzer got up and celebrated because he thought he had a sack, and he's like flexing, yelling at the crowd, and he doesn't even see the flags that just got thrown on him because Jared Goff had handed the ball off, and it was a 15-yard penalty. So you got to be careful, Jason. You got to be careful with those fakes. You might be too good at them.
Well, that's happened to me before. I've taken pride in like ball faking and everything like that. I really enjoyed that because I've handed the ball off before and came out fast and thought I had it, and I got blown up. So, it's happened before, and that just means you're doing what you're supposed to do. You supposed, as a quarterback, you're not just supposed to hand the ball off and just chill and relax. Like, you're supposed to be an artist, and you're supposed to try to paint that picture so that the coach can see, but then you're kind of overseeing everything as well. So you do fake it and come out of it. If he can't tell you got the ball or not, then you did your job, because if he's paying attention to you, if that running back decides to cut back, on a zone play and the backside becomes open because the end come upfield to take you as a quarterback, now he's vacated that area for that running back to cut back and can hit it out the backside and go the distance. So, that's part of you doing your job is drawing that defender. So Jared Goff did his job.
Anthony, I got to say, I like when we do our jobs, nobody hits us in the face. Like we fake somebody. There's no, yes, I got smashed. I like our job better. I mean, I'm sure NFL quarterbacking had a lot of perks and certainly has a better salary, but I don't ever get hit in the face if I do my job well. So I got that going for me.
Hey, you're safe. You're safe right there behind the seat, so you don't have to worry.
There we go. Jason, this was really great. Would love to have you back sooner rather than later. Appreciate your perspective greatly. And by the way, where can people find all the stuff that you're doing now? Because I know you're doing some media work down at Auburn and doing some other stuff. So let folks know where they can get more insight from you.
Yeah, I do Auburn radio, color analyst for the football team, play-by-play with Andy Burchin. So I call their games on the radio each and every week live. And then also you can catch me on my podcast show, Believe in Everything Auburn. It's BLEAV. In everything Auburn. I talk about pro stuff as well. Majority a lot of Auburn stuff, but that's mainly what I do on Twitter. Is capital JC little AM _17, and you can also find me on Instagram, just J Campbell 17.
So you're so good at this media stuff. You got your plug down to like a nice elevator pitch. That's how you know you made it, when you can really just plug that stuff nice and efficiently. Well done, sir. Well done, Jason. This was great. Let's do it again soon.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Look forward to it.
That is Jason Campbell, everyone, with us on the Hoffman Show. A really good perspective on a lot of different stuff. Just the challenge of being a young quarterback. And it's really hard. Please help me, offensive coordinator. Please help me, receivers. Please help me, running game. It's just too hard to do. I do think the game has changed since Jason has played. We talked about that a little bit of I think there was more of just run the ball now versus how do we find the easy completions. But the principles of what you're trying to accomplish there are the same. How do you make it easier for the quarterback? And that is something where I think EB is still trying to find those opportunities for Sam with this particular group in this particular offense. It is the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Let's take a quick break. Come back, Anthony. Quick break. Code word first. Let's skip trending this time around. Quick break. Come back. When we do, the Wizards had their season-opening media press availability today, and there was a prevailing thought from Winger and Dawkins, the law firm of Winger and Dawkins, that I think is worth discussing quickly before we get back to the Commanders at the top of the hour. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, and always live as well on the free Odyssey app.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.